Hi everyone, welcome to today's class on specification sheets. Today we'll be going through the methods for creating specification sheets natively within Revit without having to go out to other tools. We'll be discussing what some of those other tools are and comparing methods for why you might do it in Revit and why you might not do it in Revit. We'll be looking at the data in relation to the model elements, some of the parameters, as well as how to go about setting up your spec schedules and sheets and placing the schedules across multiple sheets. There's a lot of handling of data and probably a lot of skills in scheduling in Revit in order to make all of this work. And then finally, how do you sort of update your specifications? Okay, so we're in a project here today, and we've got, we're just going to have a look at scheduling some items within this project. And, you know, one of the ways that you can schedule things or across the industry, or there's a few different ways of scheduling things across the industry. And one of the ways is by using, say, an Excel spreadsheet. Now, an Excel spreadsheet, I've just knocked up something very quickly here to demonstrate what that might look like. If you're doing it this method, I guess the first thing there is that you're detached from the actual model data. So if that code changes, then there's no relationship back to the Revit model. Same with any of the information contained within. Whether it needs to live in the model, that's another question. Sort of a downside of Excel, you know, these things tend to float around. Also, when you go to print, it can be quite difficult to sort of define and set the parameters for the size of a page and a sheet. And, you know, as your specification gets larger and larger, this becomes more and more difficult. So you can see the obvious problems there with sort of the Excel method. We've also seen these done in other applications such as InDesign, or even done in Word. Word at least will split it across sheets relatively okay, but it also it's a bit clunky. It's not great for holding a lot of this information. And again, you're detached from the Revit model. And finally, the InDesign method looks fantastic if you can pull it off, but it's an incredible amount of work to maintain, particularly if you, you know, say you need to add something into an earlier sheet. You know, my InDesign skills aren't that advanced, but as far as I can tell, that's quite a difficult task to do. So for that, the pros there of going to, say, a Revit-based specification system is that your elements or the items in your specification actually match the items within Revit in terms of whether they exist or not. And if codes are changed, they also update as well. It will also assist to capture things that may get added to the project over time. One of the major downsides of moving to a Revit-based specification is that it is tied to the data in the model, which I just mentioned was a positive, but is also a negative because, say, something ceases to exist. You know, for instance, this cleaner's sink, if I was to delete it, it will remove itself from the specification if it's the only or last instance of that particular cleaner's sink. So there is a risk in there for that as well. Something to be aware of. Okay, so in terms of actually setting these up, you can set up these by creating a multi-category schedule. To do that, you can right-click on schedules and you can go new schedule quantities and click multi-category schedule. Now, we're not going to go through that today from scratch because I've already got a specification schedule set up. Those who are using the bimco project template will also have this same specification schedule that I've already got in this project. Might have made a few tweaks along the way. So this is the multi-category schedule that has been set up. within this schedule, we have a number of fields. We've got code, which is actually the keynote value, description. So that's description coming from the family, manufacturer, specification, which is a parameter that we have created at bimco, spec image 1, spec image 2, and a URL, which is also a built-in Revit parameter there. Just to have a look at the fields, this is kind of what we're looking at here. Okay, and there's a couple there that I've hidden off. Now it's quite simple the way that it works. It pretty much captures everything. I'd like to duplicate this and just show you what that actually looks like, so that you can get a sense of why there's a little bit of work here involved with setting these up. So I've just duplicated this specification schedule. I'm going to go into it here. It's got no filtering applied, and I'm going to itemize every instance. It's basically going to show everything in the project model that can be scheduled. You can see we've got lots and lots and lots of fields, all empty because there's no information. For this particular instance, we may wish to include, say, the family. Let's go family and type, push that to the top. And this is actually quite a handy schedule to set up. Now, I like to create these in your model and call them something along the lines of data. It's basically an unfiltered version of the schedule that you're trying to put together. Helps you to spot things that it might be missing. You can see in here we've got all sorts of things, including walls, doors, windows, and our elements that we would actually like to schedule as part of this FF&E schedule today. Now, the trick here is just being able to filter these out, knowing what to do and how to make the schedule show the things that you would like it to show. So some tips in doing that. One of my personal favorites is to, and let's just do a duplicate here. Okay. And we'll just call this number 2. My personal favorite for filtering these down is to filter them so that the, say, keynote or tag or category tag mark value, type mark value, actually has something in it. So I'll usually go keynote is greater than nothing. So basically, if it has something, it will schedule. So that will help us here. We'll do that. And we can see that we've got all these things that have actually been coded. So basically, the idea there is that as you're working through the model, you're tagging things. And by tagging things, they're making their way over here into the specification automatically. So it's a purposeful action to tag something, and it's sort of an automatic action. So we think that that's quite a good way to ensure that things are captured. Okay. Now you'll see that we've got the same object, 4 times, for instance. Now coming back to our itemizing of every instance, you would want to untick that to ensure that this does not repeat itself over and over again. So we'll go like that. And you can see that now we've just got the one of those items which has actually been already specced out for the project. Okay. So I've actually got a few, as you can see, items already populated in here. We're going to go through and demonstrate how to actually get these to show and to bring it into this the specification schedule here. Okay, there's a couple of ways we can do that. As we mentioned, we can tag them. So that's actually the most obvious way. And I just want to demonstrate how this workflow might work. So we might do an element keynote. And we'll, let's say, tag this basin. We've got our keynotes here. We're just going to go with basin 1 here. Okay. And I've gone with a text type keynote tag there. You can use just a tag type as well. Now that should show up in our specification. I'm going to find our one that we just created. Okay, there it is there. Basin, rectangular bench wall mount with the type basin 01. I might zoom in here for you guys. Make it a bit easier. No description, no manufacturer, no spec, no images, etc. Now that's good. That's what we want. And you don't want to be using the family and type to define the description of the item. So you'll find that the specification that we've actually got set up will just show the code ready for all of the inputs. And this is where the data views come in handy. Okay, now over here, or in our actual spec, we'll use this one, which is our sort of official one. And I'm just going to apply the same filter as we did before. So filter by keynote is greater than nothing. Okay, we've got our basin. Now we just need to plug in the details. So for this particular basin, it's a vanity mounted basin, and I'm just going to copy and paste from some information that I already have. And when you hit or you click off that, it will ask you a question. Basically, it's pushing that information into the type. So this change will be applied to all elements of this type. Are you okay with that? The answer is yes. Manufacturer. So we'll plug that in. Chroma. You can see that if it's been used before, it will provide a suggested comment. And specification, and you can go through and fill that out. Now this is a multi-line parameter, so you'll have to click into these little dots to bring it up. So I've just added the manufacturer's code, so different to our code, and any other specification image information. The image, we'll go find that. So now to add the image, we'll click this. I'll just roll back a bit. There is a little button here, the 3 dots. We'll click that, click add, and we'll go find an image. I've already downloaded some here. So we've got, let's go with this one. Okay, that's the image. It's got a path on it. Hit OK. Okay, yes, you're okay with that. And if you'd like a second image, I actually do have a second image for this. We'll grab that one. Sometimes it's handy to have 2. And then the URL. So you can obviously grab that from the manufacturer. Just do a Google on it, find that object, and paste that in. Okay. That's all been filled out. Now let's head over to the project. Let's actually click on that basin and we'll have a look at where that information is being stored. So I've selected that basin. Now the reason it doesn't have information is because it's generic. You know, generic's good because generic will allow me to change my mind on this particular basin without necessarily changing the geometry. Say we get that awful term of value managed on our project. We don't actually have to reissue our drawings. We can just say it's basin type 1, and then the spec will actually inform what basin that actually is. And of course, you can update the width, depths, and heights of those objects if that was required with a different spec. Now, within the basin itself, we're in the type. We can see it's this one, and these are all the specs. And so this is where all this information has come through. So we've actually managed to input them from the schedule. But if you needed to, you can always come in and edit them within here. And you know, we can go refer to a spec, something, I don't know, manufacturer spec. Or we might say installed to DDA. Okay, so just by adding that information in, it's pushed it into that type. We can head back to our schedule and that information is contained within here. All right, now that we've filled those out, let's have a look at setting up some sheets to place this on. Okay, so we've actually got a a title block that you guys can use, which I've loaded into this project. So in order to set this up, I'm just going to right click on Sheets and go New Sheet. And we're going to pick, firstly, our cover page specification sheet. Which looks like this. That's just the title block. And we're going to make this, well, let's give it a sheet number. I've gone with Spec, and we'll change this to just 000 for this particular specification. So for the cover page, and we're just going to call this furniture, fixtures, and equipment schedule, like so, and it just behaves like a normal sheet would. And I'm going to drag onto here a sort of a view or something, or an image, whatever you like. You know, you don't have to use this cover page, but you know, something that we're going to do today. And that's your cover page. Actually got a picture of the building, but it could be a picture of a room or something like that. And we're going to create a new specification sheet. So I'm just going to right click here. You can duplicate empty sheet like so. And then you can select this title block and swap it out for the standard option, which basically just removes that little bit of information there. Okay, there's our spec sheet ready to be populated. So we're going to drag onto the sheet our specification schedule. Which one do we want? Yep, that one's fine. Okay, there it is. Popped it in. You can see those images. There's that basin that we put in, and all of that information has come through. And we're just going to use the move tool, MV, to snap that into position. And that will look reasonably tidy there. Okay, our spec sheet's set up, but as you can see, it's a little bit long. There's all these other items that are on here that realistically need to get pushed onto another page. Now, Revit in the last few releases has enabled us to split these across multiple sheets, which is brilliant, which is why this workflow suddenly works for us. Now, to do that, we'll click this little button here, Split Schedule. Split Schedule Table. I'll click that, and you can see it splits it out. And it just so happened to be the right height, which is very convenient. Now it's popped it over to the side here. It's got its own little grip, little move. It is also, if I look on the side here, created 1 and 2, you can see. So I can actually delete that one off this page, and I can go and place that onto the next sheet. So to do that, we could just go duplicate, do as an empty if I want to. It's going to remember that 001 was the last one, and I'm going to drag number 2 over here. Okay, move that into position, and that's our next sheet. Now the nice thing about that is as items are added, it will actually be defined by the height of the schedule. So if I go into this one here, we've actually got a grip here. So if I drag that up just to 1 or 2 items, I go to my next sheet, you can see that it's pushed it out, and then we could just rinse and repeat, duplicate this sheet. Okay, we want to split out our schedule again. So click this guy, split it again. You can delete this bit, go to our next page, drag on our part 3, like so. And as items are added to the schedule and changed, you know, you'll see that if this became, you know, back to where it was, you'll see that this sheet's updated. That's got nothing on it. So it's actually pushing and pulling between them. So you're not going to end up with redundant parts of your sheets. Okay. Finally, how do you go about sort of filtering these? So we're doing an FF&E schedule today, but as you can see, we've got all sorts of manner of things in here. And as you keynote and code things, they're going to all make their way onto this into this package. So what we want to do is set up some sort of parameters that will enable us to filter the items down. To do that, we'll head back into our plan here, and you'll want to create a new project parameter to do this. Now, I think I've got something here. What have we got? No, okay. Right. Yes, it's in the edit type in here, I believe. Yep, okay. We've actually got a parameter called specification group. Now, I won't go into it too much, but there is a video on creating project parameters. The way to do that is through manage, project parameters, go and create a new one, or actually find one from the shared parameter file, tick on all of the things that, that it should be applied to. When it's multi-category, it's a lot of things. And once you've done that, it will then show up in this edit type. Now you can group these and sort these how you like. I've decided to use this specification group to filter out. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go into our specification schedule, and we're going to go to filter, and we're going to go with specification group equals, and by being an equals, it will actually be a drop down for values that have been used, and hit OK. And you'll see that it'll actually only show items that both have a code and are tagged with the FF and E sort of parameter.